So for those who don't know who Morgan is, tell us a little bit about your background, where you came from, and how do you find yourself here?
Yeah, so actually, it's funny. I went to the military to be a special operations combative, and I washed out on a medical injury. Then I got lucky enough to get stationed in Hawaii. And even though I was in this wonderland, I wanted more for myself. I felt like this isn't enough. I need to figure out what's next. So I saw this guy walking around the barracks, and he was always just looking so dapper. He had dress shirt, dress pants, a tie, just looking real fresh. So I ended up going to him and being like, hey man, what are you getting into? What's your reason for dressing like this? Because all the rest of us are just young people clocking into work, coming home, and figuring out what we're gonna do with the rest of our day. Long story short, he introduced me into this world of entrepreneurship, but he was operating in an MLM. And once I got wind that it was something kind of fishy, I did a bunch of research. In one of the breakdowns, I found a link to Rank and Rent. And then that's how I hopped on, and I made my commitment right away to start giving myself to this business model fully. That's exactly how I made my exit plan from the Air Force.
How much did you spend in the Air Force?
I spent 4 years active duty in the Air Force, and then I just cut ties. I've never been a big fan of authority, but you have to learn to follow before you can learn to lead.
Good point. So you did that, and then you discovered MLM, and it was kind of up your alley, but not so much. Not you wanted something that's MLM, but better than MLM, like a little bit more upside. And you found Rank and Rent, and you're like, oh, this is better than multi-level marketing. What drew you specifically to it? Like when you watch these Nick videos, like what was it? What was about it?
So to answer your first question as well, I just didn't want to build my success off of other people's failure, and that really is what MLM comes down to. There is a very, very small percentage of successful people in that, so all the people you're bringing on likely will fail. And what attracted me to the Rank and Rent model and to Nick, I got into the Rank and Rent model before Nick, but whenever I was introduced to Nick, I took it from 2,000 to 3,000 all the way up to 13 was my highest month that I saw. It was just helping people, man, helping people put bread on their table, and then I get a slice of that bread. For me, it's always been, if I'm not building my riches off of helping others to some capacity, if I can't at least tell myself that, not everyone else has to feel the same, but if I at least can't tell myself that, then I'm doing something wrong.
I like it. Yeah, I heard this just the other day. The right thing to do is always the right thing to do. Yeah, now we talked about gut too, like that gut feeling, like when you don't feel it. I mean, you had this high, I mean, the force or the Air Force is high and perceived as it gets, but still you found yourself in there, but it didn't click with you, it didn't jive with you, so you wanted something better. Even though everyone that's in the Air Force was probably like, yeah, this is it. This is, as good as it gets, but you were still striving. Now, tell me about the 2 to 3K. What year was that as opposed to the 13K per month, which is your peak, right? Maximum that you got is 13. Okay. So what years were those?
2 to 3K, I want to say that was about a year and a half, 2 years in. And
what is that, like 2022?
It was either 2020 or 2021, and I'm sure we'll get to it a little bit later, but I had a lot of shiny object syndrome in my time. So yeah, I want to say it was about 2020, 2021. It was right around beginning of COVID time where I started to really draw in some money from that, and then started to develop my exit plan as I started to count some of my eggs before they hatched. Because I just knew that staying under that umbrella of authority wasn't what I wanted to do. And I believe that you can be under an umbrella of authority and still find freedom, but for me, it just wasn't happening.
Yeah, it's just, that's your character, that's who you are. And I like also that you phased out. I did the same thing. I had a full-time job, and then when I started this, I went into part-time and hired someone, and then switched, trained them to do what I do, gave them the full-time, took the part-time, and then 3 months later I just phased out until, instead of just pulling the plug and going full board, that's a little scary. Easing into it is the way to go. And a lot of students are actually doing that in the group. They have full-time jobs, they're full-time parents, badasses, and they also carve out time to go work on this, the Rank and Rent. That way they're easing off of the work, they're phasing out and then going full-time into Rank and Rent. Yeah, I like it.